This is Tread Boldly, Leadership Lessons from the Saints, with Father Nathan Cromly.
Thanks for having me back again. I'm glad to be here. I want to look with you today at a passage from the life of St. Paul because he's just such a great study for us and what it means to be a Christian leader. It's a passage that's found in the Acts of the Apostles in chapter 17, verses 22 to 34. It features a moment in the life of St. Paul what most of us would categorize as success. He had been chased out of Philippi, he had been mobbed in Thessaloniki, run to Berea where another violent mob had formed, and then been forced into a boat to come to Athens. When he finds himself in Athens, St. Paul's all alone, he has no source of support, and he simply starts to talk about Jesus Christ to anyone that he could find on the street. If you can almost imagine St. Paul walking around just speaking about Jesus because he needed to, and to anyone who would listen to him. Well, evidently he was a good speaker because eventually the people who heard him started to gather and give him so much influence that he was given an opportunity to speak about Jesus Christ to the council in Athens of the highest levels of their society. Now, when you think about it, that's quite a success. He's speaking in Athens, Greece, the home of culture, of thought, of so much wisdom. And here were the people controlling the city of Athens, who therefore would be people of influence and of education, who were interested in new ideas. And St. Paul was asked to speak to them about Jesus Christ. So of course he says yes. And they're standing on this huge rock called the Areopagus, this site that's located on the top of a large rock there in the city of Athens. St. Paul began to speak, and he preached an amazing speech. It's one of the addresses that people still speak about because it's simply so well put, so erudite, so concise, and so persuasive. He speaks about the need for those who are looking for God to find the God they're looking for in Jesus Christ. And so there you have it. You would think this is a total success. St. Paul giving a knockout speech at the place where the greatest influences of his day had met to listen to him. And he finishes with a bang, talking about the resurrection from the dead. But then you read in Acts 17:32, quote, "Now when they heard of the resurrection of the dead, some mocked, and others said, 'We shall hear you about this some other day.'" And he was dismissed, just like that. St. Paul, the world's greatest preacher, found himself facing failure. Now, it's true that some men who were there joined him and believed, and yet most of them mocked him and turned him away. And I bet some of you who are listening right now have felt the same way. You did your very best in your marriage, and it didn't work out. You tried your hardest with your kids, and yet for some reason, they turned their backs on you. There's all kinds of things that we list in our own lives as defeats, and those defeats we carry with us as if they were a death sentence. Sometimes we feel so defeated that it's even hard for us to accept ourselves and move forward, but that's not what we see St. Paul do. Instead, the next verse, it says, after this, Paul left Athens and went to Corinth. Maybe he was following the instructions of Christ, who said, if you come to a town and they don't accept you, shake the dust of that town off of your feet and keep moving forward. St. Paul had to accept that they didn't want him, and so he went elsewhere. He was able to find success even in his failures. Why? Probably because he was judging himself differently than we judge ourselves. We must not allow our success to be defined by the world and by our own pride in the end. Our success as a Christian is defined by Jesus and by the love that we bring into our lives, even if our efforts end in what appears to be failure. We never fail when we have tried to be faithful to love and done our best. For those of us who are Christians and leadership, we need to lead like Christians, which means our heart belongs to God, who has sent us here to be faithful to him in our mission. And we therefore endeavor great things. We spend all of the energy that we can on doing things. We try our best to succeed at what we do. But in all things, we're being more attentive to the one who sent us, more faithful to that love than we are to whatever kind of results we're getting from those who are benefiting from our labors. Of course, it's a both and yet in the final analysis, it's Jesus who is our judge. Remember what Mother Teresa said, God did not call me to be successful, he called me to be faithful. And so we're able to find success even in failure, strength even in defeat, and no matter what happens, we tread boldly for Jesus as we make the faith known.